Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Pastor Sean from Simple Bible Teaching. You clicked on this video because you want to know what God really thinks about divorce. And for a lot of you, you're feeling that you were forced to divorce your spouse. And there's hundreds of reasons as to why you think you should do it. But let's dive in to why God and what God thinks about it. And what he says is that he hates putting away, which means he hates divorce. He actually considers it an act that is treacherous against the person you love. Yes, your spouse, your husband, or your wife. In the Bible, it shows us that there's one good reason as to why we should leave our parents and cleave to someone else. And that reason is marriage. But just like I stated before, there are so many reasons why we can feel within our hearts that we have to divorce. And so let's speak about why God doesn't like it. It seems like a quick and easy solution. We're not considering kids. We're not considering all the time you put in. Let's just consider it as the best option for now. And why God doesn't consider it the best option. The reason why God doesn't consider it the best option is because he's God. And who God has joined together, let no man put asunder. But you're saying, and you really believe that we're fighting every single night and it's the same argument. And we tried to reconcile. We tried to turn the other cheek. But Pastor, things are only getting worse. So what am I supposed to do? The arguments are getting worse. We're getting into fighting. It seems like we're going into the public and we're bringing it in the public. We honestly came to an agreement that the best thing is to separate. But why? Just because you're bringing it out into the open? You are men and women of God. You have to learn to control the flesh. And you would see that if you learn to put the flesh under submission, then you will soon realize that you don't need divorce. There's something called trials, temptations, and tribulations. But God sums it up by saying that we are greater or counted more than conquerors. So when we go to God and we tell him that the oath in which we've made, that bond that is from the law, till death do us part, we want to break that oath. God doesn't even like that. Why? Because he listens to you when you've made up in your heart to make the right decision and to cleave to this one woman that you could fully serve God and not have to wake up with a new partner, once a week or once a month. He doesn't want that. You're not going to feel good about yourself. They're not going to feel good about themselves. So you make a decision to marry. And for whatever reason, you speed up till now and you want to divorce. But let's consider something else. Let's consider if divorce didn't exist. Yes, if it didn't exist. You remove it from the options within your mind and within your heart, because that's really all that matters. And if you removed it from your mind and from your heart, what does that mean? It's no longer an option, which means that we have to do what? Work through our differences. Differences are not all bad. It's just the emphasis that we put on them. We have to learn to realize that although we may think differently, we do share a common goal. And that common goal is to get through life. And when you divide yourselves from your partner, you're now alone. And that goes back to Genesis as to why God put you together, why God created a helpmeet to begin with, so that man wouldn't be alone. But you're thinking that I could find another spouse. I could find someone to fill that void. But how does God view it? Is it really such things? Is there such thing as another marriage? We see that a lot of the Israelites, they turned from God and served other idols. He considered that like a divorce and remarriage in some points. And yet, did it work out? No, it only got worse. They felt like things were getting better, but it eventually turned out for the worse. And they are trying to get back to that spouse, get back to that place with God where they saw the light. And for a lot of you, if you really consider, once you've gotten divorced, maybe you're watching this a little bit late and you got divorced, a lot of you guys still are very good friends with your spouse. Yeah, I know it sounds totally backwards, but it's true. And it just seems like we work better when we're apart than we're actually together, than when we're together. Pastor, why is that so? Because you didn't work on your differences. You know, a great leader knows how to utilize individuals and their hidden talents. You have to learn as men and women in God how to see each other's differences and learn how to utilize them. If you're better in finances, take on the finances. If you're better in disciplining the children, you take that. But the whole idea is whatever I consider you the best in, I should still be a very good support while you're utilizing those traits. So if you remove the options or the option of divorce, then there's other options that will be presented to you. I'm going to say that again. Once you remove divorce from your options, other options become present. It's just the natural makeup of our mind and our heart. Once we believe that there's only one other option, then that's it. We don't look for other options. And even although there's other options out there, we don't consider them because we've made up our mind, we've made up our heart that this is it. But if we train our hearts and our minds to be open to the goodness of God, then what happens? Better options will be presented to us. As the word of God says, all good and perfect things come from above. If you look from the Father of lights, which presents us with all good things, and you wait on him and diligently trust in him, then only good could come forth from your marriage and from your lives. You see, we count the people of Israel, the Jews, as people who just gave up, who were ungrateful. And for some of us, we may see that once our spouse gets remarried or is dating someone else, we're seeing them as a gem or a jewel and seeing their glow, right? We're a little bit jealous. We're a little bit envious of that. But the thing is, that's why we have to step back sometimes and allow God to take that step forward for us. Because our eyes wants to believe what it wants to believe. It wants to make sense of life. If we're arguing consistently, then it must mean that we're not made for one another. But that's not true. There are events in people's lives. And sometimes, oftentimes, we don't discuss those events. It may be losing a parent. It may be losing a job. It could be as simple as an argument. Or maybe something that you didn't get accomplished. Well, your mind doesn't know how to fathom all that information sometimes because we're getting sent so much information from our eyes to our ears, and soon enough our heart just trying to gain grasp of what life is. It conceptualizes what reality is. It does its best. But God is the creator of life. Put your trust in him. Everything he wrote in the word was for our learning. But if we don't trust in God, we cannot learn from him. You know, we think and we consider, well, Pastor, what's the big deal anyways? Where does it say in the New Testament where I can't divorce? And a lot of people want to know, what is this bond in which you're speaking about? The bond is the Old Testament. It's not the New Testament. And Jesus is, he's all about the grace and the mercy of God. You haven't spoken about that. Stay tuned for the next message as we delve in deeper to those same topics. God bless.